Vinland Saga is an ongoing historical seinen manga written and drawn by mangaka Makoto Yukimura. First published in April 2005 in Manga Magazine Weekly Shonen Jump before switching to Manga Magazine Afternoon in December of that year. It has been around for many years. It released its 22nd volume on June 21st of this year, and at the time of writing this, it is currently on its 163rd chapter. And as you know, in July of this year, it is currently being produced as an anime by WIT Studio. Without spoiling the story ahead of the anime, I will summarize the plot. Vinland Saga is set in 9th century Europe, just before the end of the Age of Vikings. It follows the character of Thorfinn, loosely based off real Icelandic explorer Thorfinn Karl Stephanie, who, following Leif Erikson's roots, attempted to set up a permanent residence with his wife and followers in Vinland, modern-day North America. In the manga and anime, after his father Thors, an ex-warrior of the Jomsvikings, is killed by Askeladd, a leader of a Viking mercenary group hired by a fellow Jomsviking Floki. Thorfinn joins Askeladd's group, vowing to kill him by constantly challenging him and working for him to get that privilege. The main story begins in 1013 AD, after Askeladd and his group are employed in the Danish invasion of England and the King's Spear. The story is loosely based off the 1013 Danish invasion of England under Svein Forkbeard, King of Denmark. It draws inspiration for the characters from recorded British history and borrows elements from various Viking sagas, from more Nordic characters such as the Flebiuch, Saga of the Greenlands, and Saga of Eric the Red. The actual Vinland sagas have not been incorporated to the story as of yet. Vinland Saga, as it progresses, becomes a fascinating story filled with epic inhuman battles, making the reader fear the strength of the Vikings. But at the same time, it is a moving story, showing the unfairness of life and the destruction of vengeance. Although it does not appear at first, Vinland Saga is a manga of pacifism and anti-revenge, just like George R. R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. Just because you're the good guy doesn't make killing for revenge right. And just like most characters that desire that revenge, they never get their desire fulfilled. It explores the consequences of war among the masses, as when the Vikings raided Britain and other European territories, they left a trail of death and destruction. Yukimura, being Japanese, has seen his nation suffer under war, with devastating effects of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and the devastating effects of the Japanese invasion of Nanking, China. Yukimura, specifically regarding Askeladd, is a master of suspense and reveal. Yukimura masters the art to reveal, as reveals are never directly implied, yet feel natural and deserving, unlike the reveal of Kaguya and Black Zetsu in Naruto War Arc. When I first began the story, it took me a while to become truly invested. It didn't excite me at first, but as I started reading, I became more and more invested in the story, history, and specifically the characters. My favorite when first reading was Knut and Askeladd, and later Thorfinn. As for pacing, at first I thought it was fast, and I didn't have enough time to be truly invested with one character for too long. But after the introduction of Thorkel, it started to feel more natural, and finally I fell in love with the story by the end of the Danish invasion arc. The dialogue at times in the beginning feel forced, as you're being not so much invested into the world as of yet. But as you read more and more, and become invested in the lore and history, it becomes natural, as if they spoke at that time. As for the story, I would give it a 10 out of 10. Yukimura is an excellent writer, and with each volume I become more and more invested. WIT Studio has done an excellent job of portraying his story, and unlike the manga, made it very easy to follow by organizing the time jumps that I had a problem with in reading the manga. All of Yukimura's characters are loosely based off their historical counterparts, but original in design and personality, as there were not many accounts describing the psychology or personality of these characters, while other characters like Askeladd and minor characters are completely original. But even though they are original in design and character, Yukimura successfully makes them feel as if they existed, and that's how they were in real life. I always associate Thorfinn Karl Stephanie with Thorfinn, son of Thors, and King Canute the Great with Prince Canute. When I began the story, I could not relate, nor feel invested in Thorfinn's character. I never liked the revenge aspect, and only liked it when it was before his father's murder, and the few moments where revenge wasn't all on his mind. And I suppose it was a part of Yukimura's genius. His story is a story of anti-revenge. We aren't supposed to relate to his cause, and it's only after the Daesian invasion arc where I began to fall in love with Thorfinn's character and rooted for him. He became a real person who suffered real-world consequences, felt real-world emotions, remorse, guilt, sadness. His character wasn't an oversaturated trope anymore. Just like Eren in the current Attack on Titan manga, they both feel like real people finally. Even though I didn't like Thorfinn in the beginning, I did like Askeladd. It wasn't his cunning nature or his skill with the sword, but it was the fact he had a dream bigger than himself. He was a man who'd done terrible things. He was human. I fell in love with Askeladd's character when he told his backstory. It wasn't out of sympathy, but the fact of his identity and his ambition. He lived among the men he hated the most and became one of them. And if you don't want to get it spoiled, go to this time. That identity he died for. He died to secure Canute's power and protect Wales when he's given an ultimatum. And Askeladd after his death doesn't become the object of Thorfinn's hate, but someone he learns from. And eventually Thorfinn forms his own identity. Askeladd wasn't an actual real person, but rather based off numerous sources, and Yukimura's perfect character direction. He's based off the object of Norwegian folklore, a small man that succeeds where others fail, Askeladd. Askeladd emanates this by acting friendly and weak, but uses it to deceive others, to succeed where they might fail, as you will see he does with King Sweyn. His real identity being Lucius Artorius Cantus, the real-life Lucius being a Roman commander, who in fact was the inspiration behind King Arthur, and later in the story Askeladd claims he descends from. Canute, when first introduced, is a weak-willed, feminine-looking character. He's the son of King Sweyn and Prince of Denmark. Askeladd wants to put him on the throne instead of Canute's brother, Prince Harold. At first he seems unlikable and two-dimensional, but after the death of Ragnar he gains an ambition that he will later share with Thorfinn, and becomes a conflict between the two with their different executions of their desired worlds. In the later manga I began both hating and loving Canute, as he becomes a tragic hero of some sorts. Canute embodies the everyman, as power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. As he wants to fulfill his dream of a perfect world with perfect love, the ambitions of the crown deflower his dream, making him want to achieve that dream for terrible means. Canute was loosely based off his real-life counterpart, King Canute the Great, who became King of England after his father's death and quarrel with the House of Wessex. Thorkel the Tall is a German Viking, Thorfinn's great-uncle actually, as you shall learn. Thorkel was an enjoyable character to read. He was the exaggeration of a Viking incarnate. Hulk-level strong, tall as a tree, profane, hairy, and always up for a fight. It was like all the stories I was told as a Viking was put into one character. Yukimura designing Thorkel really went out on the big Viking tank. Thorkel wishes for the ultimate battle. Getting bored of always winning, he wants to meet his match. When reading, I loved the interactions between him and Thorfinn, especially with adult Thorfinn. And yes, we do see adult Thorfinn. And let me tell you, you're in for a treat. I like most of the characters and wish I could have spoken about Ainur, but I know I'd be going into deep spoiler territory. But with a few characters I can speak about. I will say thank you to Yukimura. These characters are beautifully crafted and they blend into their world so well under his writing, without ever seeming unreal. and like his art, his characters and writing improve. Speaking of art, let me give you an example. These are two pictures. Both of them are of Askeladd. The first is from the first volume, and the other is from the 8th volume. You see it, right? When looking at the art of the manga and the anime, I couldn't help but get a Berserk vibe from it. Throughout the whole manga, I was gifted with these beautiful visuals and the sad details of life. But there was beauty in it. The beautiful snowy Icelandic landscape, the lush green fields of England, and the rocky mountains of Wales, where the Thorfinn's ungroomed battle-ridden face, or King Canute's pure, angelic face. Yukimura takes time to craft this world into Europe at the time, and making his characters seem as they belonged there. When we are first introduced to Thorfinn, he is a young boy filled with hope and dreams of the outside world, beyond Iceland. His eyes are wide and circular in design. His hair is messy but well-groomed. When his father dies, he is filled with anger and turmoil. His eyes turn into the Thorfinn we are accustomed to. When we pick up later, he's roughed up. Long, messy hair, dirty, and the eyes of a villain, honestly. It's his mental elf. His quest for vengeance is pain he hasn't dealt with, killing him from the inside, making him unrecognizable. Is he supposed to be the hero? Because he sure doesn't look like it. Now this is deep spoiler territory, so skip here to avoid. When Askeladd is killed by Canute, it is the first time we see Thorfinn not angry. He's in pain. We haven't seen pain like this since his father died. Canute destroyed his dream. He dreamed to kill Askeladd, the man who killed his father. What was he supposed to do? Everything was taken from him now. After he strikes Canute and is sent into slavery, Einar meets Thorfinn emerging from the woods. His hair has grown longer. He has a beard and the eyes of a dead man. No goals, no desire, nothing. He's an empty shell of a person. After working on the farm for several years, he begins to look cleaner. He ties up his hair, grooms his beard. He looks somewhat happier. He starts to feel emotion, sadness. He doesn't want to hurt people anymore. But he still doesn't have that dream, that thing driving him. When he's freed from slavery and goes home, he's groomed by his sister. He looks like he did when he was a child, but he's grown up and has a scar by his cheek. Thorfinn wants to do good. He has a desire. He wants to go to Vinland and create a world without war, violence, slavery, everything bad. But the scar remains as a reminder of his past, a symbol of remorse and the terrible things he did and must atone for. Thorfinn's character design is my favorite, and how it shows his progression. Yukimura has such a distinct style of drawing characters that they resemble their cores, Canute's adult design being my favorite, but his gift with scenery complements the anime so well. When I first started watching the anime, I couldn't help but be brought to tears seeing the sky as Thor and his family buries that slave. I could see as if the slave's soul drifting across the cosmos to Vinland to be in peace. The dark, rough sea emanating the Viking Age and their control of everything. The beautiful scenery of Iceland making me feel right at home. The anime succeeded living to that and improved Yukimura's vision, translating into a medium that truly did it justice. Finally, I come to my verdict. This summer anime roster has offered some amazing shows, which I review as well, and some fewer shows which I'll briefly review in one video. But Vinland Saga was my most anticipated one, and I was not disappointed. As a fan of the manga before it was greenlighted, I can say WIT Studio has faithfully adapted my favorite manga. I have always and will forever hold Vinland Saga in high esteem, as a studying historian, lover of philosophy, writing, and a fellow weeb. So my recommendation is a 10 out of 10. If you love amazing action, history, and berserk, this is one for you. I'm excited for the future of Vinland under WIT Studio and will continue to support and read the manga. Hey guys, thanks for watching. It means a lot. I hope this goes well. I was really passionate about this video and put in a lot of effort and a lot of trial and error recording this. Vinland Saga has always and will forever be my favorite manga. If you liked this video, it would be nice if you subscribed and tap that like button and comment about what other summer 2019 anime you'd like me to review and which one you want to see first when fall comes around. Anyway, I hope you like this video and have a nice day. Anyway, sayonara. Weebs. Is that right? Otakus? I don't care.